First of all, thanks everybody for coming. Merci pour tout le monde pour venir ici ce matin, cet après-midi, je veux dire. I'm going to start by reading a statement from Mike Duffy, and then I will give you a brief overview of the civil action that was started today, and then open it up to questions and comments that you may have. I don't plan on getting into legal arguments or discussions about some of the contents of the statement of claim. I'm sure you can understand why, but I'll try and answer any questions that may help you clarify some of the legal language that are in the statement of claim. On behalf of Mike Duffy, more than a year ago, I was exonerated of 31 criminal charges by Judge Charles Vaillancourt of the Ontario Court of Justice. The judge called me a credible witness whose conduct was reasonable and honest. In his 308-page decision, Judge Vaillancourt examined and dismissed every charge related to my residency, travel claims, and expenses, saying they met the criteria for Senate business and were appropriate. Since then, my lawyers and I have tried patiently to resolve matters with the Senate. The Conservatives still control the Committee on Internal Economy, Budgets, and Administration, CEBA, and have shown they are not interested in correcting the unjustified actions taken against me by the Senate. The Harper Conservatives have left me with no choice but to go back to the courts for justice. The action I am initiating today is as much about the future as it is about the past. My civil action raises questions which go to the heart of our democracy. I believe the Charter and its provisions apply throughout this great country, and especially on Parliament Hill. My family and I have suffered stress and serious financial damage, as have the other senators who were unfairly targeted and their rights trampled. If this action succeeds in bringing charter protections to all who work on Parliament Hill, this will be my greatest contribution to public life, and the sacrifice will have been worthwhile. It would be appropriate for me to say, it would not be appropriate for me to say anything more while this matter is before the court. That's the statement of Mike Duffy. En français, la déclaration à la part du sénateur Mike Duffy. Il y a plus d'un an, j'ai été blanchi de 31 accusations criminelles par le juge Charles Vaillancourt de la Cour de justice de l'Ontario. Le juge a déclaré que j'étais un témoin crédible qui a fait preuve d'une conduite honnête et raisonnable. Dans son verdict de 308 pages, le juge Vaillancourt a examiné et rejeté chacun des chefs d'accusation liés à ma résidence, aux demandes de remboursement de mes frais de déplacement et à mes dépenses en déclarant que ce dernier correspondait aux critères des affaires du Sénat et qu'elle était appropriée. Depuis lors, mes avocats et moi avons patiemment essayé de résoudre certaines questions avec le Sénat. Les conservateurs qui contrôlent encore le comité de régie interne, budget et administration n'ont montré aucun désir de corriger les actions injustifiées engagées contre moi par le Sénat. Les conservateurs de Stephen Harper ne me laissent donc pas d'autre choix que de me présenter à nouveau devant les tribunaux. L'action que j'engage aujourd'hui concerne tout autant l'avenir que le passé. Cette action civile soulève des questions qui sont au cœur même de notre démocratie. Je crois que la Charte et ses dispositions s'appliquent d'un bout à l'autre de ce grand pays, et particulièrement sur la colline du Parlement. Ma famille et moi avons subi un stress et un préjugé financier important, tout comme les autres sénateurs qui sont injustement ciblés et dont les droits ont été bafoués. Si grâce à cette action, tout ce qui travaille sur la colline du Parlement obtient la protection de la Charte, ce sera ma plus grande contribution à la vie publique. Il ne sera pas indiqué d'en dire davantage puisque l'affaire est devant les tribunaux, à la part de Mike Duffy. We have today commenced a civil action against the Senate and the Attorney General of Canada on behalf of the RCMP for charter violations against by the Senate, malicious prosecution, what's called misfeasance in public office, and unjust enrichment. As against the RCMP, we are suing for negligent investigation and negligence. As a result of the actions of the Senate, various senators and their committees, Mike Duffy has suffered substantial losses, including the loss of his sessional allowance or his salary, benefits, pension accrual. He was banned effectively from the Hill, was unable to attend at his office. He suffered serious, ongoing, and continuing damages to reputation. He has physical pain and suffering, emotional pain and suffering, anxiety, and I suppose if Mike Duffy was a Newfoundlander instead of somebody from PEI, they would say he near died. This action, it was, as I say, started this morning, and you have before you the statement of claim outlining the allegations and the various causes of actions and the claims for damages. The statement of claim outlines a history, much of which has already been proven in a court of law, and there you have it. Ce matin, nous avons commencé une poursuite civile contre le Sénat et aussi le RCMP pour les violations de la Charte, des poursuites abusives, le délai de faute dans l'exercice d'une charge publique et enrichissement injuste. Contre le RCMP, nous avons commencé la poursuite pour l'enquête négligente et la négligence. Monsieur Duffy avait souffert des pertes de son salaire, les avantages. Aussi, il avait perdu le régime de retraite accumulé. Il a été barré de l'accès au bureau et sur la colline. Et aussi, il avait souffert des dommages, des effets ou préjudices contre sa réputation. Il avait aussi souffert d'une façon physiquement et émotionnellement, psychologiquement. Et vous avez devant vous, dans la déclaration, tous les détails de ces pertes. Alors, si vous avez des questions ou des commentaires, I'm open for questions or comments.
The Senate has always said that they have the right to suspend Mike Duffy. There was an administrative issue for them, and that they have the privilege to do so. So what makes you think that you have, that Mr. Duffy now, Senator Duffy now, has the chance to actually win in court on
Right. Well, you've mentioned a couple of things. One is right to discipline, and the other one is administrative. Any privilege, it's our position, and it's pleaded in the statement of claim, any privilege that the Senate has to discipline is just that. It's a privilege to discipline. It is not a privilege to do what they did in this case, which is tantamount to expulsion from the Senate. In terms of an administrative matter, I agree. And you'll see that's also pleaded in the statement of claim, that it is an administrative matter. It is not a matter which is necessary for the functioning of the Senate. If were that the case, they might also claim privilege. So I agree with you very much so. It was an administrative act that was carried out, but it was an expulsion, the likes of which have never been done before in parliamentary history in this country.
Would you mind describing the nature of the charter breach that you're alleging? You're not just saying that you suffered pain and suffering, but that there was a fundamental breach as well.
Yes, Section 7 of the Charter speaks of the right to life, liberty, and security of the person and the right not to be deprived thereof except in accordance with the principles of fundamental justice. What was done to Mike Duffy was anything but carried out in a manner consistent with the principles of fundamental justice. He was denied opportunity to properly answer the charges of gross negligence. Subsequently, when criminal charges were being considered, you'll see in this statement of claim there's a claim that he was denied a real opportunity to speak with the RCMP and explain his side of the story. And all of that is pled as part of the breach of any natural justice that was done in this case.
But he wasn't deprived of liberty. He wasn't jailed for any period of time.
That's true.
He obviously wasn't deprived of his life.
Right.
As far as I know, not in security of the person either. So what's the actual breach?
The breaches are under Section 7, under Section 11, also due process, the right to, his right to be presumed innocent until proven guilty. The man was expelled from the Senate, and what about the presumption of innocence for Mike Duffy? He was treated in a fashion. He was punished, expelled for what was alleged to be gross negligence. subsequently charged, and those charges weren't made out. So when he goes back to the Senate and says, all right, you have a policy here to pick up my legal fees, don't you think you should pick them up? I was acquitted. They say no. When the judge finds that his expense claims were reasonable, the Senate proceeds to claw them back from his salary. When the judge finds that the only misfeasance here of public office was not Mike Duffy, but rather emanating from the Prime Minister's office, the Senate refuses to give him his back pay for 2 years and his benefits, or to reinstate his pension accrual for that time frame. So we have somebody who's been through the public grinder and been through the criminal courts, and despite all of that, the Senate still refuses to try and in any way make this man whole.
Are you surprised it's gotten to this point now, considering you've got a Prime Minister who seems to be open to out-of-court settlements, like Omar Khadr?
Well, I appreciate the question, because my hope is that the current government will look at this civil action in the way that it's been pled. The engine behind Mike Duffy's troubles was another government, another Prime Minister's office, and a group of senators of another political stripe than the current government. And Justin Trudeau and the Liberals will hopefully look at this action as one which is being, and it's right in the statement of claim, that these actions were taken against Mike Duffy, were instituted and led by the then governing Conservative Party.
Does Mr. Duffy intend to resign? Mr. Duffy, does he intend to resign?
No, absolutely not. Why would that even be on the question, on the table?
Well,
He did nothing wrong, and a court is so found. I think your question should probably be better addressed to any of the people who were found to have been at the heart of the persecution and prosecution of Mike Duffy, as found by Justice Vaillancourt.
What thought was given in sort of weighing the pros and cons of going with this? You know, you describe in here a man who went through the public grinder and all the attention and how it affected him, and here you are doing it again. This is going right through the public grinder. So what thought did you give to this?
A considerable amount of thought has gone into the fact that has gone into that equation. Mike has been through a very difficult 4 or 5 year period, and continues. You know, his reputation for many Canadians doesn't take into account the fact that he's been completely absolved by a court decision. So we had some very long, hard discussions about, do you really want to get back into this all over again? And the conclusion that he and we came to was that he had to fight. He had to fight back, and he, as he said in his statement, which he wrote, he felt that he had to do this not only on his own behalf, but on behalf of all of the people on Parliament Hill, to demonstrate that that what he went through and the process that was applied to him was improper and unjustified, and he really sees himself as somebody who's fighting back through this civil action.
Est-ce qu'il a eu des contacts avec le Sénat pour essayer d'obtenir une réparation? Pouvez-vous me décrire quelles étapes se sont produites?
Oui, il avait essayé de recouvrir une partie de ses frais légaux. Aussi, il avait fait des efforts de recouvrir le salaire, l'indemnité de cession et les avantages qu'il avait perdus, aussi le régime de retraite accumulé. Il avait demandé tout ça de le Sénat, et ils ont rejeté ces réclamations. En même temps, ils ont décidé le Sénat avait décidé de retirer 17 000 $ auréliant des dépenses, les mêmes dépenses qui étaient approuvées par le juge.
Mais je veux savoir, est-ce qu'il y a eu des contacts ou il y a juste eu un silence radio? Est-ce qu'il y a eu des échanges de lettres?
Oui, il y avait
l'argumentaire présenté?
Il y avait des correspondances courriels, demandant, étant donné qu'il a été acquitté de toutes ces accusations, qu'est-ce que vous allez faire au ces sujets? Et le Sénat et le comité de le Sénat CIBA avaient décidé qu'il ne paiera rien à ses pertes.
Are you doing this pro bono?
Pardon me?
Are you doing this pro bono?
Mike Duffy is not a rich man. That's all I'm going to say on my retainer.
Councilor Singh
Mr.
had mentioned
French,
other members of the Senate also going through a similar experience as him. Were any of those other members approached to possibly join this suit?
No, not to my knowledge. None were approached. I think Mike Duffy is a very unique situation, given that he went through a full criminal trial and was acquitted, as opposed to the other three individuals who didn't go through that kind of very, very challenging process.
Est-ce
So
que
you're
vous avez
saying
envisagé à un moment donné la possibilité d'intenter aussi une poursuite contre le Parti conservateur? Parce que M. Duffy en fait référence dans sa déclaration.
Oui, mais ça c'est une possibilité, mais jusqu'à date, on va procéder avec ça et on va voir qu'est-ce qui va arriver.
And what does the general damages include? You mentioned a little bit. Right?
General damages there's a summary of them right off the bat. You start the claim on page 3, and you go through the general damages are for pain and suffering, the loss of enjoyment of life, loss of reputation, mental and physical pain and suffering. They're more particularized later on towards the latter part of the statement of claim, beginning at page 44, and they talk about things. We talk about things here like severe anxiety, depression, aggravation of his heart condition, including the need for second open heart surgery, insomnia, nightmares, exacerbation of his diabetes, headaches. It was quite something for Mr. Duffy to be able to physically and mentally get through what has been his life for the last 4 years.
And what's it been like for him back in
Sorry?
$8 million is a lot of money.
Yes.
Do you think that the public still has or has any sympathy left for this man?
Well, I certainly hope that the public has sympathy. I think there's a good portion of the public that has sympathy for a person who did nothing wrong. The courts have found he did nothing wrong, and yet the Senate refuses to even reinstate his salary for the period of time from which he was banned from the Senate. I would think that the public would be and should be sympathetic to somebody who was put through what Mike Duffy was put through, at the behest of, for the most part, people who are supposed to be our political representatives. So if the people of Canada want to, put some blame for why this is happening, I think they should direct it to the top, the Prime Minister's office, the Senate, the CIBA, and the various individuals who, according to one Globe and Mail source, referred to them having pulled a hoax on the Canadian people. If citizens of Canada are going to be upset with anybody, they should be upset with those political leaders that engineered and designed this whole hoax, this whole scenario, the forced scenario.
So why not sue Stephen Harper?
Because the actions of the Senate in their resolution, in suspending / expelling Mike Duffy from Senate, are really the action that we and the way that it was done are really the actions that we are attacking. That's what we're going after. The fact that the Senate was members of the Senate were being influenced / directed by the Prime Minister's office. That's their problem. Ultimately, damage that was caused to Mike Duffy was caused as a result of the Senate resolutions and the various things that were done to him as a result of that.
Du risque du Sénat de faire un hoax, d'aller un peu trop loin. Considérant, je ne sais pas si vous avez un message à dire, considérant ce qu'on essaie de faire avec Don Meredith, par exemple, que le Sénat essaie d'appliquer des sanctions contre les sénateurs. Auriez-vous un message plus général à envoyer au Sénat qui essaie peut-être de se faire justifier parfois?
Interesting. Si j'avais un message, ce sera que chaque individu à notre pays a le droit d'être présumé innocent jusqu'à le temps qu'il est prouvé coupable. Et dans ce cas-ci, M. Duffy a été traité comme s'il avait été coupable avant qu'il ait été accusé. C'était une injustice tellement...
Croyez-vous qu'il y a une tendance de la part du Sénat de faire ça? Is there a tendency by the Senate to laver plus blanc que blanc?
J'ai fait une petite recherche à la part des sénateurs qui étaient suspendus dans le passé. Et c'est seulement des sénateurs qui avaient manqué, je pense, 2 sessions qui n'étaient pas en attendance 2 fois. Nous n'avons pas eu, jusqu'à le temps de M. Duffy été suspendu, nous n'avons pas des autres précédents comme tels. Alors, c'est pas un systémique traitement des sénateurs.
You mentioned that there's been a judge that has made declarations about Mr. Duffy's expenses in a criminal trial, but this is a civil matter and it's a separate trial. So would you have to, if it went to trial, lead evidence about those expenses and whether they were appropriate? Would you have to call senators and people from the Prime Minister's office, and would you have to retry the facts again?
No, and that's it's a good point. We've addressed that towards the end of the statement of claim. There's a doctrine in administrative and civil law that says that you can't do what, in effect, we say the Senate has done since the Vaillancourt decision, and that is you can't carry out a collateral attack on Judge Vaillancourt's decision. It is, in my view, improper, and more importantly, the law says that those findings of fact made by Judge Vaillancourt, they were not findings on, you haven't proved beyond a reasonable doubt. They were findings of fact that his expenses were reasonable and that he acted in a reasonable and fair and honest fashion. And the Senate, by then turning around and really spitefully deducting the $17,000 of expenses from his salary, have really carried out a collateral attack on Judge Vaillancourt's decision. No, we fully intend to stand by it. I don't foresee us re-arguing the expenses, and any attempt to do so would, I think, be met by Judge Vaillancourt's decisions and his findings on fact. The lawyers might refer to it as res ipsa loquitur. In other words, the res, or the dispute, has already been spoken of, it's already been decided, or res judicata. I'm sorry, I've got my Latin terms mixed up. Res judicata means it's already been adjudicated, and that's really what we're relying on. And you'll see in the statement of claim, there's many references to the findings of Judge Vaillancourt.
Can you talk about the process that brought you here? It's almost a year and a half since the verdict. So why the delay, and why did it take so long for this?
We're not going to get into Jordan country here, are we? Yeah. Okay. Why the delay? I mean, a good part of it has been the challenge that you yourself raised, and that is, or maybe it was, I think it was one of you raised this issue about whether to jump back in, and it's been extremely difficult for Senator Duffy and his wife and his kids, and there was an understandable reluctance to get back into the public eye with this whole matter. And so there's that part of it. It also took me a long time to draft up a 50-page statement of claim. My goodness. It's one of the longer ones I've ever done, I got to say. So no, we've I've spent a fair bit of time with Mike Duffy and Don Bain, and we have consulted with constitutional law experts. We've done an awful lot of research to come to what we have today with the statement of claim. So.
And your website describes you as someone who stands up for the little guy against government. Is Mike Duffy the little guy in this case, going up against the big bad government?
I would think. I certainly, getting back to the retainer question, I think his resources are pale in comparison to the resources of the Senate and the Attorney General of Canada and the RCMP. So.
How's he been feeling? He's been back at work in the Senate now for a year, and you mentioned for all the general damages, depression, anxiety. Has he been feeling that this past year while he's been going to work every day? He's been feeling that since the day that he was suspended from the Senate. He's been feeling that, and to the point where his life was at various points in time in jeopardy as a result of this.
And you mentioned, an acquittal in a court of law.
Yes.
But at the heart of the matter are Duffy's expenses, are Senator Duffy's expenses, and the fact that he was, charging meals for when he stayed in his Ottawa home, which he had owned for several years before he was a senator. So all these things are going to get brought back. And I come back to the sympathy question. Do you think that people are really going to feel sorry for him, bringing in all the facts of what he was charging taxpayers for?
This civil action isn't about the propriety of his expenses. That's already been ruled upon. So unless you guys plan on retrying that, I certainly don't. This case is about the way that Mike Duffy was treated after there's been a judicial finding that he did nothing wrong. And a Senate that expelled him still refuses to reinstate him, I think outrageously, goes and then slaps Judge Vaillancourt in the face by clawing back $17,000 of expenses, which have already been adjudicated upon. So, I'm certainly not planning on relitigating the residency issue or the $90,000 check or the expenses. This case really is about what happened to Mike Duffy after all those things have been found by the courts to have been honest and reasonable.
I remember after the finding, the RCMP issued a statement to all the people who worked on the case, kind of patting themselves on the back for a great job. And you take a totally different position here. Like, what can you kind of crystallize what you think the RCMP did wrong?
Well, we've particularized in the statement of claim a number of things, but one of the great examples was their meeting with Nigel Wright and having in their minds to choose between Nigel Wright and Mike Duffy, and actually concluding that Mike Duffy was a bigger fish than Nigel Wright. Judge Vaillancourt, I think he put the proper pecking order in place in his judgment. And the RCMP making the decision that because Nigel Wright cooperated, and we have the notes of the officers from these meetings, because Nigel Wright cooperated and was a person of influence, but Mike Duffy was a bigger target, we're going to go after Duffy. That is just one example of what we say is a negligent investigation. One of the hearts of a negligent investigation is failing to give the person that you're about to charge a fair opportunity to respond to the accusations beforehand. And I've been doing negligent investigations cases against the Ottawa Police and the OPP and the RCMP for more than 35 years. And that single item, the failure to give somebody a fair chance to respond to the accusations before you make the decision in your own mind that you're going to charge them, is a really important factor, and it's in play here as well. So, si L'enquête négligente à la part des RCMP, what do you call them in French? GRC, merci. À la part de la GRC, un des éléments critiques, c'est vous devez donner la personne qui vous avez l'intention de poursuivre, vous devez donner cette personne l'opportunité de répondre à les accusations avant que vous avez décidé nous allons vous accuser avec telle charge. Dans ce cas-ci, ils n'ont pas fait ça. Et ça, c'est seulement un exemple. Il y a des autres exemples d'enquêtes négligentes dans la déclaration.
Sur Nigel Wright, par exemple.
Ah, sur Nigel Wright, il y avait eu une réunion dans laquelle GRC avait décidé, même si M. Wright est une personne importante, M. Duffy est une personne plus importante, un plus grand poisson. C'est pas le mot, mais ça marche en français aussi, bon, tant mieux. Si M. Duffy est plus grande personne d'intérêt que M. Wright, alors on va procéder contre M. Duffy parce que M. Wright avait coopéré avec nous autres et M. Duffy n'avait pas fait la même coopération.
Do you know any precedents of people, successfully suing the RCMP after they've been investigated and charged but vindicated in court?
Oh, yeah. Jeez. Matthew Buck, 1982, federal court. That was just the first of the times that I've sued the RCMP. So I've been down this road before. Yeah, yeah. Huh?
After an acquittal.
Buck was charged, either acquitted or charges withdrawn, one or the other, and then we sued civilly in federal court for him. Yeah. There's many examples of wrongful false arrest, false imprisonment, negligent investigation cases against the RCMP. There's many of them. I've done a lot more against the Ottawa Police just because we're here, but it would not be the first time by any means that the RCMP is being sued for negligent investigation.
C'est une question technique, mais il n'est pas dans le libellé, c'est marqué Sénat et Attorney General, donc...
Attorney General à la part de GRC.
Ok, d'accord.
C'est ça.
And on the $17,000 of salary that you referenced, why didn't Senator Duffy plead his case before Ian Binney or some other arbitrator in the Senate, go through the channels like other senators did?
Yeah. The kangaroos in Australia are very upset about that, aren't they? No, no, that was not a process that was. I think at the time, as we were going through, and this also goes back to an earlier question. You know, what were you doing for the year and a half? And during that year and a half, there were a number of steps taken trying to get the lost salary and other benefits and things, and the partial legal fees. But at the time that offer was made, I think it was clear in going through some of the minutes of the debates that were taking place at the time. It was clear to us, at least, that the likelihood of success was going to be very limited. Let's put it that way. Let's try and be as diplomatic as I can.
Can I just ask you, sir, on the RCMP?
Yep.
You obviously said what's the message you want to send to the Senate, but what's the message that you would send to the RCMP? You said you've obviously sued a number of times in these types of situations, but this one seems to be different. So what's the message this time?
The message to the RCMP is, I think they were unduly influenced from a number of sources. The sources are set out in the statement of claim. And they didn't do their job fairly and objectively, as they should have. It's not the first time for the RCMP, that's for sure.
And if you're successful, how should they change it? In case
When the RCMP starts taking, or at least are perceived to have been taking their marching orders from the Prime Minister's office and/or the Senate, That's a very dangerous road for the RCMP to be going down, and I'm sure they are already thinking 2 and 3 times. I mean, they brought all these charges against Mr. Duffy, and you saw the way Judge Viancourt said, "Hey, listen, you charged the wrong guy. You should have charged the guys down the hall in the Prime Minister's office." I mean, that's what he says in his judgment, and this is a judge who wrote a 300-page judgment after listening to all the evidence, nailing it. I mean, there wasn't a piece of evidence, there wasn't an email that he didn't refer to in that judgment. And he basically said, RCMP, excuse me, you charged the wrong guy. Mr. Duffy shouldn't be here. So, I mean, I would hope that they've already heard and reacted to that message. What this message is saying to the RCMP is, the guy that you wrongly charged should never have been charged, and you, in conjunction with the members of the Senate and the various committees, ruined his life. So it's time to try and make Mike Duffy whole.
And following on Terry's question, are you hoping that this is settled out of court? Is that a good outcome for you?
It depends on the settlement. You know, it's these cases are very difficult to predict as to, you know, the likelihood of settlement. Clearly, there is currently a government in place which upon which these sins don't need to be visited, but it may well be that their current thinking is such that they will come to the table, and we'll see if we can work this out. If that happens and it's beneficial to Mike Duffy, then, you know, we would be very much in favor of it.
But let's put it differently. What's more important for Mike Duffy, to have his money or to have his day in court and make the point that he's been treated unfairly?
I would say both. I would say both. It's they're certainly it's important to Mike Duffy that the people are aware of those that aren't, that are aware of how he was treated and what damage it caused to him. And at the same time, if people are aware of that, and if the appropriate defendants are made to pay, what that will do is ensure that going forward, other people shouldn't have to go through what he did.
So what's the next step? You filed this today?
It was issued today. It'll be served on the Senate of Canada, the Attorney General of Canada, and they will have then a period of time to reply in a statement of defense. We call that the pleadings, and after the pleadings have been exchanged, then there'll be, I imagine, a very large exchange of documents, affidavit of documents. Both sides need to produce to the other side what documents they have. Unlike the criminal process, there's an exchange of documents from both sides. After that would be examinations for discovery, or what most people refer to as depositions from the American influence. And after examinations for discovery, the matter would proceed to trial. We're talking about a very long process. You know, anywhere from 2, 3 to as much as 5 years. It's a long haul. Sorry.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
But why aren't you suing the Conservatives? Senator Duffy says in his statement that the Harper Conservatives have left him no choice but to go back to the courts, and he says that the Conservatives still control the Committee of the Internal Economy in the Senate. So why aren't you including the Conservatives on this as well?
When you get a chance to go through the whole statement of claim, you'll see that we have. There are a number of places where we have named various Conservative senators as part of the process that was brought against Mike Duffy. Ultimately, the damage that he has suffered was caused as a result of a Senate decision of the whole of the Senate, and it's for that reason we've named the Senate, which, you know, as I say in the statement of claim, we point out was at the time controlled by the governing Conservative Party senators. So we're not shy about where this came from, but at the same time we have to be accurate as to what actually caused his damage. And the damage was caused to him as a result of an expulsion, which was a decision of the entire Senate. Liberal senators were very much opposed to the process that Mike Duffy was subjected to. But, you know. All right. Thank you. Merci beaucoup.